Okay, good afternoon, everyone. At least good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. Still good morning to those of you on the West Coast or further west. So thanks for coming to our webinar. We're going to talk today about the UMass Chan Early Independence Fellows Program. I'm Brian Lewis. I'm one of the co-chairs of the search for one of the two tracks. But we have an agenda for today. The biggest part of it is really to get to your questions. And so we'll quickly talk about the program, describe the two tracks. So there are two independent tracks. There's the Chan Early Independence Fellows track and the Maraganori Early Independence Fellows track. We'll talk a little bit about our institution, the UMass Chan, and the Worcester area. And then we'll end by talking a little bit about how to put your best foot forward in the application process, and talk a bit about that process and the timeline for review of applications and decisions. And then, of course, we want to spend lots of time answering your direct questions. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I'm Brian Lewis. I am one of the co-chairs of the search for the Chan Early Independence Fellows track. I'm joined by Kate Fitzgerald, who is professor of Department of Medicine and co-chair with me on the Chan track, and Dr. Phil Zamore, who is chair of the RNA Therapeutics Institute here at UMass Chan, and leads the Maraganori Early Independence track. Next slide, please. So why did we create this program? So our goal really is to recruit, truly exceptionally talented junior faculty, junior scientists, I should say, with the potential to become independent investigators. And our goal really is to take those talented individuals, provide them with financial mentoring and career development support, and really allow them, sort of an early career stage where they can, push for their own creative ideas, develop an independent program in a fantastic and collaborative scientific environment, and push themselves and develop themselves to become independent faculty, either at UMass Chan or elsewhere. So as I mentioned, we have two tracks, and so folks who apply to this program and are successful will join one of two tracks. The Chan Fellows track will allow fellows to align their research with any of the participating departments at our institution, and we'll highlight several of our departments a little bit later in the talk. And again, you will develop your own independent research program while actively embedded within that department and collaborating with other faculty within that department and outside, and receive mentoring from more senior faculty members in that department. The RTI Maraganori Fellows track is very similar in that structure, except that the fellow who will join that track will specifically establish their program within the RTI, within the RNA Therapeutics Institute, and they will be embedded in that department, and their mentoring and career development support, much of it will specifically come from within that department. Next slide, please. So who's eligible for this program? So this is an important point that we want to emphasize. You must have a terminal degree. That could be a PhD, an MD, PhD. Frankly, if you have a DVM, that's probably also fine. Must be, and I emphasize must, you must have completed that within the past 24 months. And we are very interested in evaluating, having applicants from a variety of backgrounds. And we mean that both in terms of scientific background, but also individuals who belong to various demographic groups. So we really want to see applicants who represent truly the broad range of excellence that's going to push science forward. One important note, if I just quickly go back, Natasha, one important note, if you have an MD, but not an MD PhD, you are eligible to apply only for the Chan Early Independence Fellows track. Next slide, please. So the successful fellows are going to come to UMass Chan, and they're going to get very robust support. So they'll be appointed as a non-tenure track assistant professor. They'll receive an annual support package that totals $440,000 a year. That includes a competitive salary and fringe benefits, additional funding to recruit staff to your lab, as well as to purchase equipment and research supplies. Our fellows will participate in ICAP, and we'll talk about ICAP more on upcoming slides. And in addition, fellows will receive a childcare supplement if they have dependent children. To the right on the slide, you'll see some of our fantastic research core facilities. These include the cryo-EM core, deep sequencing core, transgenic animal modeling, flow cytometry, etc. I do briefly want to highlight the cryo-EM core. It is sort of a crown jewel at the institution. We are one of the leading cryo-EM centers in the country, and we're very proud of sort of being at the forefront of that really important technological advance. Our fellows will also have, in addition to the supports within their department, they're also going to be able to align with DEI-focused affinity groups, such as our Alana group, which is for our faculty of color. We have a disabilities group, LGBTA affinity groups. We have a professional women's group and a veterans group as well. Next slide, please. So I mentioned ICAP, that stands for Investigator Career Advancement Program. And ICAP is a program that was developed here a few years ago to ensure the retention and success of our junior tenure track faculty. And so our Chan Fellows and our Maraganori Fellows are going to be embedded within ICAP cohort, and they're going to go through the career development activities along with our newly hired tenure track assistant professors. So you can see the bottom of this slide on the left, you can see the number of participants in each of the cohorts over the past 4 years. And we anticipate having a similar size cohort in subsequent years as well. So highlights of ICAP include robust mentoring networks, tailored faculty development curriculum, and so this includes discussions around important topics like recruitment and hiring of staff and graduate students and fellows into your labs. How do you manage those staff? How do you manage conflict, obtain additional funding, etc.? There is a heavy focus on science communication. So there's a dedicated senior scientific writer that works with the ICAP cohorts. There's individualized writing and coaching. And fellows, ICAP participants work together, to write grants, manuscripts, etc. As well as there are lots of community building activities. And next slide, please. Okay. So these are photos of some of the community building activities. These are actual ICAP cohorts. Okay, and I'm not going to walk through all of these pictures, but the sort of the top middle picture is sort of taken during a hike during one of the key activities, which is the write-in retreat that the ICAP cohort participates in. And so they actually go away for a few days and do intensive write-in on a particular project, whether it's be an R01 submission or similar, or a manuscript or something of that nature. Next slide, please. Okay. So about us here at UMass Chan, we are, we believe very strongly, a truly outstanding institution at which to initiate your independent research program. So we are among the leading medical schools in terms of NIH funding. We are a top institution, top medical school for primary care education, and we have truly outstanding faculty. So we just a couple of weeks ago had the second member of our faculty who won the Nobel Prize, and that's Dr. Victor Ambrose. And then sort of on the bottom right, you can see an excited selfie of Victor and Craig Miller, our first Nobel laureate here. We have Lasker and Breakthrough Award recipients, members of the National Academy of Sciences, members of the National Academy of Medicine, and 4 Howard Hughes Medical Institute investigators. Uh, I mentioned very briefly on the previous slide that we have fantastic state-of-the-art research cores. We have a brand new research building that just opened earlier this year that added significantly to the state-of-the-art research space on campus. And very uniquely for an academic center, Mass Biologics, which is an FDA licensed manufacturer of vaccines and biologics, and is the only nonprofit that's so licensed in the United States, is actually part of UMass Chan. Increasingly, philanthropic contributions recognize our excellence. And importantly, I want to emphasize this last point. We are really renowned for our collegial, collaborative, and inclusive environment. And it's one of the key reasons why many of our faculty, including truly outstanding faculty like Phil and Kate here on this call, as well as Victor and Craig, have stayed here for extended periods of their careers, despite numerous offers to go elsewhere. They truly believe that this is the place where they can do the most excellent science because of the collegial collaborative nature of our institution. Next slide, please. So here are just a listing of several of our academic centers, academic departments and centers. I'm not going to run through all of them, just to emphasize that each department and center has a seminar series, has faculty chalk talks, has research in progress presentation opportunities for trainees, graduate students, and postdocs. And we have several NIH-funded T32 training grants. And again, junior faculty in those departments and centers participate in ICAP. Next slide, please. So I'm going to turn to Phil Zamor to talk a bit more specifically about the RTI. You're muted, Phil.
The RTI was originally founded as a program. It was co-directed by Melissa Moore, who later became CSO of Moderna Therapeutics, Craig Mello, Victor Ambrose, and myself. And then 8 years ago, we became a full-fledged department, and I'm currently the chair. We have a strong emphasis on mentorship, and the fellow who becomes the Maraganori Fellow will be able to work with 2 senior faculty members who will meet monthly to discuss career development and anything else that the fellow would like to talk about. As Brian said, the fellow will participate in the ICAP program. We also run an annual symposium that gives our faculty, students, postdocs, and the fellow opportunities to meet people from both academia and industry. And we run a science program for the Worcester Public Middle Schools that the fellow will participate in as part of our educational outreach. We offer strong support for our faculty, and the fellow will be able to take advantage of this. We have 2 full-time scientific writers to help preparing grants and manuscripts. They also work with trainees to submit fellowship applications, and there are numerous writing workshops across the campus to participate in. We have a number of departmental events intended to build community. We have a monthly RTI seminar series. We have themed tea times. We have pizza chalk talks. My lab just presented at one today, and everyone from the staff through to the faculty participates in those. Across the campus, we have an RNA data club that meets monthly, a CRISPR super group, microscopy group, and a long-range sequencing user group, among others. Right?
Thank you, Phil. Next slide, please, Natasha. So I want to tell you a little bit about Worcester. It is not the city that immediately leaps to mind for many folks, but it is a truly fantastic place, we believe. It is, by population, the second largest city in New England. It is an increasingly diverse city. We've got lots of racial, ethnic, and cultural diversity within the city of Worcester. And in fact, within the Worcester Public Schools, there are more than 70 languages spoken by students within the Worcester Public School system. And as you can see, it's ranked among the top 20% of most diverse cities in the United States. It is also an extremely safe city to live in within the United States. Housing remains affordable, um, and it is a very centrally located city. One of the things that I actually like very much about Worcester is that in a very short period of time, you can be in several other cities sort of listed here, or you could be, in an hour and a half at the beach or within half an hour or so in the middle of nowhere hiking, which I really enjoy. There are lots of universities and colleges in the Worcester area. And as I mentioned, fantastic recreational opportunities within a relatively short distance, and many sort of world-class cultural venues. The Worcester Art Museum is, in fact, a true gem. And because of the cultural diversity here, there are many different annual festivals and cultural events. There's theater and a really evolving and growing, food and drink scene. Next slide, please, Natasha. So how to create a strong application. So just want to highlight here the deadline of December 1st. That is going to be the required deadline to have all materials submitted through Academic Jobs Online. That is the only venue through which you can submit an application that will be considered. So there'll be several components: a cover letter, CV, anonymized research plan, a one-page personal statement, and then 3 letters of recommendation. So the cover letter, we really want to see you articulate your reason for why you're interested in this opportunity and why you think you are in a position to take full advantage of what this opportunity offers. You will obviously include additional information that will support that in the form of your CV. And then you will submit an anonymized research plan. And so this research plan is going to summarize the prior research that you have done, including during your doctoral training. If you are currently a postdoc or in a different position, it's going to describe some of that research as well. And importantly, it is going to describe what you propose to do as a Chan Early Independence Fellow. Okay. Importantly, because this is anonymized, you need to write this while excluding any identifying information. So while you can and should speak very clearly and directly about the work that you have done, we don't want you to list who your graduate mentor was or your postdoctoral mentor or the institution that you attended at any stage of your training. Okay. In addition to that research plan, you're going to write a one-page personal statement. And that statement is going to describe your lived experiences and how they have informed your values, priorities, and career goals. And so really what we want from that personal statement is we want to understand how does you think about the scientific enterprise, how you think about collaboration and working with other folks, and what your priorities are and what your long-term goals are. Okay. And then finally, there'll be 3 letters of recommendation. Should emphasize that while your research plan is anonymized, the other components of your application do not need to be. And so your letter writers can, provide and should provide very clearly as much identifying and specific information about you. And your personal statement can also include that information as well. Next slide, please, Natasha. So in the next 2 slides, we'll briefly touch on the review process and timeline for identifying the fellows. I'll briefly talk about the Chan track, and then I'll have Dr. Zamor go through the timeline for the Maraganori fellows. So our application is now open. Again, the deadline is December 1st. You must apply through AJO. Um, and review of the applications will begin on or about December 1st. We'll probably start reviewing applications a little bit before that to ensure that we meet our fairly aggressive timeline. And we'll do our initial review of the applicants. And then in mid-January, we will hold Zoom interviews with semifinalists. And from those Zoom interviews, and I should say that those Zoom interviews will take place with the search committee. Um, so from those Zoom interviews, we'll identify finalists who will be invited to come to campus in late February for a visit where they will participate in a symposium, give a research presentation, meet with prospective department chairs, faculty members in those departments, and potentially other departments as well, do a campus tour, learn a bit more about our core facilities and see some of those core facilities. And our goal here really is for you to get a sense of which departments best align with you and your proposed research program, and to get a sense of the research infrastructure and support that exists here at UMass Chan. Our expectation is that at the end of February or sometime in March, we will have identified the two fellows for the Chan track, and those notifications will go out to the finalists. Next slide, please. And Phil, I'll turn to you.
So the procedure to apply to the Maraganori Fellowship is very similar, same components. You must apply on Academic Jobs Online, provide us with the same components, a cover letter, a CV, a two-page anonymized research plan, your personal statement of how your lived experiences influence your vision for science, running a lab, mentorship, and generally increasing the diversity and quality of the scientific community. And then, of course, 3 letters of recommendation. The application deadline is the same, December 1st. The entire faculty of the RTI will collectively review all the applications between December 1st and January 31st. We'll then, between February and March, conduct semifinalist Zoom interviews, and among the semifinalists, several will be invited to visit the campus for a full visit, present a seminar, meet with faculty, have lunch with students and postdocs, and tour the campus. And then in June, we will notify the fellow of their selection. Right?
Thanks, Phil. And maybe just the last thing to say before we turn to questions is that we anticipate that the selected fellows on each of these tracks will begin somewhere between July 1st and September 1st. That's somewhat flexible, right? We're not going to set hard and fast dates on those, but given our review timelines, that's what we anticipate. I believe that for the Maraganori track, that's more likely to be a September, October start date, given the notification. Okay, we can take questions now. Should also highlight 2 important individuals who are shown here on this slide, Natasha Hirabayashi and Angela Mesmer-Blust, who are the folks to whom, if you have any questions that you want to send by email about the application process or the programs, please direct the questions to them, and their email addresses are on this slide. And I believe they're, and correct me if I'm wrong, Natasha, the email addresses are also on the AGO posting, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, so we'll turn to questions from the audience.
Yeah, we'll get started. So the first question we have here that I answered a couple in the chat, but these ones will answer live. So what is the base salary as part of the support package? I think Dr. Rosell, you may know the answer to that the best.
I believe it is $100,000, the salary, plus benefits.
Correct, yes. Can we choose our mentor and the department that we would like to join?
Why don't I take that one? So for the Chan Fellows, choosing a department will be obviously something that the departments will have to agree to. I suspect all departments on campus will be more than excited to take a fellow, and so we will try to match you with the best department for your research interests. And then within that department, there will be a faculty member that you will be able to work with as a mentor.
Cool. The next question, will the fellow be working closely or under the guidance of a faculty or independently?
Shall I keep going?
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay. So we're looking for someone who's going to develop a fully independent research program, submit their own grants, their own papers. So like other fellows programs in the United States, the goal here is to skip the postdoc and go directly to running your own lab. So we're looking for a very high degree of independence coupled with extremely strong mentorship.
Yeah. And if I can just quickly add to that. Oh, sorry, you were going to say something, Kate?
No, go ahead.
I'll just add to that, as part of this, you'll be independent, as Phil said, and you will have the opportunity to build out your own research group. So you can hire research staff, you can hire postdoctoral fellows. You will be able to apply for faculty membership in the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, where you'll be able to co-mentor PhD students together with a tenured faculty member.
Next question is, if someone hasn't had doctoral experience in RNA therapeutics, can they still apply to the RTI track? Is there a learning opportunity or previous expertise in the field is preferred?
So we don't have a preference as to whether you've ever worked in RNA therapeutics, but you should keep in mind that a very large component of the selection will be what you propose to do in your own independent lab. And so you may, for example, be a physicist who is moving into biology and has a brilliant computational approach they want to apply to RNA biology, or a chemist who wants to, for the first time, make nucleic acid drugs using novel chemistries. And as long as you can articulate why that is really exciting, and why, if you come here and build your independent research group, it is feasible, although of course we're looking for high risk, high reward ideas. We would love to teach you RNA biochemistry.
How much details do you expect in the experimental plan of proposed research? And if we have some preliminary data to guide/support the proposed research, should we show that?
Kate, you want to tackle that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of we're looking for creative ideas. I mean, obviously having some data that lays a foundation and sort of supports what you would like to do will only strengthen the case. But yeah.
And I would add that if you show data that was produced, for example, toward the end of your PhD or the beginning of a postdoc, that you be sure in advance that the lab you were in when you perform those experiments is comfortable with your taking the work with you.
Yeah.
Do we need to speak with a mentor who is willing to host us during the fellowship before applying, and do they need to be one of the referees? references?
I would say short answer, no. I mean, when we get towards the point where we'll invite finalists on campus, there'll be ample opportunity to meet with our faculty and engage with, you know, departments and sort of learn about our science and identify, you know, a good fit for the department based on the science. So it's not a requirement to have established any of this ahead of time.
And I'd also like to add, the mentor will not be hosting you in their lab. We
Yeah.
will be giving you your own fully equipped lab space that is yours. So this is just the same as any other independent position.
Yeah.
The next question. From what I understand, UMass Chan doesn't offer undergraduate degrees. Is there any other way to get undergrads into lab, e.g. partnerships with other UMass universities or the surrounding Worcester universities?
I can start. So yeah, we do not have, the medical school does not have an undergrad campus here, but our, you know, sister institution, UMass Amherst or UMass Boston, we often have undergrads who can spend some time in our labs. There's also a number of universities locally in the Worcester area, and for example, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and we've had undergrads, you know, do internships in our labs or perform their research projects in our labs. And I think across our campus, many of the faculty have individual sort of relationships with other institutions actually all over the world where we host undergrads. For example, in the summer, we have a lot of summer research students here in the lab. So I think the UMass Chan Fellows would have ample opportunity to participate in these kinds of activities.
Does a portion of the $440,000 that we can use for research and salary get indirect costs like overhead fringe deducted? Example, how many graduate students could we support with this, assuming minimal lab expenses?
Right. So there's no deduction for overhead whatsoever. There is fringe on the salary for your benefits. So roughly there'll be, after your salary and benefits, there'll be $300,000 a year that you can use to hire postdocs. Graduate students will need to be jointly mentored with another faculty member, and in all likelihood, that faculty member will be paying half of the salary and benefits. So, you know, I think our graduate students with benefits right now would be about between 60 and 70,000, and so half of that would be your cost for a graduate student.
Yeah.
Next question. How much dedicated research space will you be given?
I can speak for the RTI. We'll be providing initially for research space for 4 people, yourself and 3 others. But if for example you were to get a grant or you spent your funds very parsimoniously and could hire more than that, we would provide additional lab space, just like we would for any other faculty member.
Yeah, and I would say that is probably true across the board. That's sort of typically how space is managed across the institution. Yeah, so I would anticipate, you know, to start with space for 4 people. And as Phil mentioned, as you grow, you know, and bring in more grants and expand your group, there will certainly be new space created to kind of meet that need.
If our chosen department and mentor are not in the RTI, should we choose the Chan track instead of the Maraganori, even though our research falls into the RNA biology field?
I'd urge you to apply to both.
Yeah, because a Chan fellow could just as readily end up in an RTI lab or, you know, within the RTI department as well. So yeah, absolutely apply to both.
And just so you know, when you go to the AJO or the job posting, there is a question that you can select the answer to say which track or both, which track you'd like to apply to or both tracks. So that's within the job application too. I read that if successful during the fellowship period, fellows would likely be offered positions at UMass. Would the offered position come with tenure, or would tenure have to be secured in the traditional manner?
Yeah, so it would be a tenure track appointment. And then, yes, once you transition onto the tenure track, you'd have to continue to demonstrate the scientific growth, the strength of your program, and contribute to the institution, other institutional missions in terms of teaching and service to the institution.
Yeah. And I would, just to clarify, these positions are, sort of 3 to 5 years, depending on the track, and they're non-tenure track. But we do expect that a lot of these fellows will be very competitive for tenure track positions in different departments across the institution when they finish the term of the early career program. So it's not a guarantee of a tenure track position, but certainly that's a strong possibility if successful.
Can fellows be affiliated with more than one department?
Yes,
I would say yes. Yep.
Does it count negatively to apply 2 consecutive years?
not if
Not
you're
at
still
all.
eligible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
that's
mean,
true.
there's a small number of these positions at the outset, so keep connected with us, and as we launch future programs, please apply.
How about the opportunity for applying K99/R00?
No, I think we're not 100% sure, but my strong suspicion is the NIH would not consider you eligible for a 1099 because you're not a postdoc. You would be eligible though to apply for R21s, R01s, and MIRA grants.
Yeah.
Is there a specific field that the search committee is interested in for the Chan track in a given year?
Not at all. We just want brilliant, creative young scientists, and we are excited for any exciting area of science. Yeah, not at all. We're not focused on any particular area.
Will applications be accepted annually?
So
Every
to
other
begin,
year.
my understanding is to begin with, we're launching, we'll have 2 slots for the Chan Fellows and 1 for a Maraganori track. And we hope to do additional calls in future years, but the exact timing of that is to be determined. Phil, if you want to add anything.
Nope, that's
That-
exactly right.
As someone who is interested in career support and mentoring as a PI, what career/environment support do you offer postdocs?
Right.
So we have a very active postdoctoral scholars office, and our postdocs, do have it can vary from department to department. Some departments have very extensive postdoc mentoring and career development programs. It really is dependent on the home environment, but just broadly speaking, the postdoctoral scholars office does provide sort of guidance and mentoring. There's annual reviews for postdocs, etc. I don't know, Phil, if you want to add any further.
No, I think that's right. And I think that will only increase with time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add as well is that we do have an active postdoctoral fellows association, UMPA, and so they also host several activities for the career and professional development of the postdocs along different career tracks, and not only focused on academia, but other career pathways as well.
Yeah.
Next question. How many teaching hours per week do faculty typically teach? Is this a skill that is valuable as an independent fellow, or teaching is fully optional?
So maybe I can start. So it really varies. I would say in general, our teaching load is very minimal. Faculty sort of opt in to teaching. There's graduate school medical school teaching, typically we would envision for an early career, fellow that there would be no obligation for teaching. This is really focused on developing an independent research program, but there certainly could be opportunities to contribute to teaching in the graduate school, for example, and interfacing with our graduate students and medical students.
Although I'm a basic scientist using a mouse model, I view my research through a public health lens. Is there support for developing a community health program linked to our research?
Yeah, I think I would say definitely so. We have a recently established collaborative in health equity, and one of the key components of that collaborative is really interfacing with the broader community and engaging them and making them aware of the work that's ongoing and sort of using that sort of kind of interaction to build stronger partnerships between the institution and the broader community. So I think there definitely is support for that.
Is there any flexibility regarding the 24-month limitation?
No.
None.
Fortunately not.
With the exception of family leave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and just thank you so much, Angela. Just to expand on that answer, if you took time because you became a new parent, if you took time off to take care of, to be the primary caregiver for a family member, that time would not count within the 24-month limitation.
If we can apply to both tracks, when would we have to make a decision about which track to pursue? For instance, if we get selected to interview for both tracks, would that be allowed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And very impressive. That would be very
That would be
great.
amazing.
You can already see they're fighting over this applicant. No. Let's see, next question. Are we eligible to recruit graduate students, or is co-mentorship with a senior faculty required suggested for these students? Oh, sorry.
Co-mentorship is required, but you can hire your own postdocs.
Yeah.
Would the use of animal house breeding or operations be charged on the annual package?
Yes.
As someone who works on mice, I can assure you that the answer is yes, but you will be pleasantly surprised by our per diem cost.
Yeah, we have very competitive rates that allow you to do much more here with the resources you'll have than elsewhere. So only come to UMass Chan.
Okay, so I see you're answering that one, Phil. So I'll go to the next question. What is the institutional support for developing and submitting K award applications? Or I guess we'll just do general funding applications.
Yeah, you wouldn't be eligible for K-99, but we provide very strong support for our applications and MIRAs, including at the RTI, 2 full-time grant writers who have long experience with successful applications for those.
Yeah, I would say there's similar activities. Again, at the UMass Chan level, a lot of support for grant writing. And then it's really within the home department where things like, science writers, etc., are made available to applicants. And as Brian mentioned earlier, the ICAP program, there's an embedded science writer, and there's a lot of guidance and support for developing sort of grantsmanship, grant writing skills and assistance with grant applications.
Is it compulsory or a part of the process that an applicant should have published papers?
I would say without a track record of, publications, it would be hard to be competitive. We're expecting to have truly outstanding applicants for these mechanisms.
Does staying at the same institution for multiple aspects of academic training count against an applicant?
Well, given that you have to apply within 24 months of receiving your PhD, we would definitely not counted against you if, for example, you were a graduate student at institution A and then a postdoc either in the same lab or a different lab at that institution, providing you met the 24-month time limit.
Sorry, is answering a question. Could you speak a bit to the animal facilities available on campus and what opportunities there are for working with larger animal models such as rabbits or NHPs?
Yeah, so we have a very extensive animal program. I would say the vast majority of investigators use rodent models. We certainly have a number of USDA species, hamsters and larger species. NHPs are not something that is available here, but some of our investigators have performed work with NHPs through collaborators or with external CROs or other institutions.
Looks like this is one of the last questions. Can we do work simultaneous with the PhD program?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could clarify it.
Like you're answering the next one. So as of right now, there are no more questions unless you would like to clarify the question you asked to that one anonymous attendee. Oh, there's another question. In the proposed plan, how much experimental details are expected?
In 2 pages, it's not a lot of room to describe the experiments in specific detail, but enough detail so that we certainly understand what you intend to do as a research program, not necessarily as individual experiments.
There are no more questions at this point. I would also like to note that this session is being recorded, and we will add any new questions to our frequently asked questions page on our website. I will post our website in the chat. There is a landing page that will take you to either track, but on both tracks, the frequently asked questions are listed. Do we need to submit a 3 to 5 year research plan or a long-term plan?
The 3 to 5 year research plan.
Yeah.
August 2022. Okay. If we successfully manage to get tenure track after the fellowship, do we get a new starting package?
Absolutely. Just like any other hire.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it doesn't look like any more questions are coming in. If you do have any other burning questions, please email myself or Dr. Mesmer Blust. CV format. Sorry, one more question. A couple more questions. CV format. Is NIH type biosketches more suitable for the application or up to the candidate?
Whatever you think best presents who you are as a scientist.
Yeah.
And then another question, how feasible is it to get human samples?
Yeah, I would say depending on the types of samples. I mean, we're a medical school, our physicians and their clinics are located here adjacent to the research labs. So that is absolutely.
And we have a biobank.
Yeah, as well.
So absolutely.
Yep.
I think we can wrap it up from there. If anyone would like to close us out. I can. Oh, wait, Dr. Lewis.
I was going to turn to Kate actually, since I did a lot of the speaking at the beginning.
Yeah, I would just say we're excited to see your applications. Please reach out to Natasha or Angela if you have specific questions. Keep an eye on that frequently asked questions page. And we're really excited to hear about your ideas and hopefully meet as many of you as possible when you come on campus as this process moves through.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks for attending, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.